second session on human relations. On behalf of OGTC, I welcome you all to 17th International Conference on Apparel and Home Textiles. The theme for the conference is Part 2, $50 billion Garment Exports, Sustainability and Manufacturing Excellence. I would like to now welcome once again formally to our session chairman, Mr. Parampreet Singh. We all know him, need no introduction, but still I will say he has almost 28 years of experience in apparel business and presently working as VP Operation in P. Empero Exports. A very warm welcome to you, sir. Our second speaker for human relation session is Professor Vasanthi Srinivasan, IIM Bangalore. Now I request Mr. Parampreet Singh, sir, to kindly introduce our eminent speaker. Over to you, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Before we invite a second speaker, I think I don't need to give an introduction because she is a very known personality. She was there even in 2021 as a speaker in OGTC conference. Most of us know her, and most of us heard how great she is and in the in-depth knowledge she has in HR. And she is one of the most respected professor in IIM Bangalore, and I will say most in demand. The way she is in demand with the OGTC conference, it's a proof that she's been invited again. So she has as an excellent career. Professor Vasanthi Srinivasan, we welcome you, ma'am, and we are grateful for your time. Professor Vasanthi Srinivasan did her postgraduate diploma in personal management and industrial relation from XLRI Jamshedpur, and a fellow in management from the Indian Institute of Management, Bangalore. Before joining IMB, Professor Vasanthi Srinivasan has worked at Wipro Limited and a boutique consulting firm. She was the ICAHT Chair Professor of Corporate Responsibility and Governance at the HHRL School of Management, Germany. She was a British Council visiting scholar at the International Center of Corporate Social Responsibility at Nottingham University Business School in 2007. She is currently on advisory board of the National Human Resource Development Network, Bangalore. She is an executive committee member of International Society of Business Economics and Ethics. She is on the working group on business and human rights by National Human Rights Commission of India. She has elaborate career, I think, but people who know and who are familiar with the mock online courses, I will say they know her because of her massive open online course titled People Management on the EDX platform. It is a top 20 courses till now by Business Insider based out of US. And she is a well-known personality in online courses. So we welcome you, ma'am, and we are excited for the session and your insight on the topic managing team dynamics. So we welcome you. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Parampreet. It's always a pleasure to come back to OGTC, and again, thank you for inviting me this year too. So should I take about 25 minutes to present and then take question and answers? Because last time there were a lot of questions and we didn't have enough time. What would you recommend?
You have 35 minutes, ma'am. You can take your time. And
totally.
Yeah, we can extend to another 5 minutes.
Okay, great. Okay. So is the slide deck there, or should I open the slide deck? It's okay. I can. Yeah. Okay. Can you see the slide deck clearly?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, fine. Thank you. So what I'm going to speak today would be quite relevant in the context of just understanding, because all of us as entrepreneurs or as managers, we lead large teams. Okay. So one of the important things to think about, because I am sure in the audience, like last time, we have both. We have entrepreneurs as well as professional managers. So I will kind of qualify this periodically so that both of you get the benefit from this session. So if you are an entrepreneur, then the whole organization in some way is what you are managing. If you are a manager, then you're really managing a group of people who work within the organization, either in your department, unit, wherever it might be. So increasingly, we are beginning to see that organizational products are not the problem. Finance is not the problem. It might be a problem in the short run, but really getting the right people and retaining them, I think, is the biggest problem. And it doesn't matter which job you're talking about in this country. Almost all jobs, the story is the same. And I also want to give a little bit of caution before I begin this, which is to say that if you think the situation is going to change in the next 10 years, it is not going to. Okay. And the reason is simple. Not for the next 20 years that do I see a change in this situation. Why am I saying this? And therefore, why is team dynamics important? Plain and simple. We aspire to have the highest GDP growth rate. What does it mean? Simple. In simple terms, what does it mean? We expect that if the country is growing at, let us say, 8%, let us still be conservative. We won't even go to double digit. If the country is growing at 8%, on an average, sectors within the country will grow anywhere from a minimum of 8% to a maximum of 50%. Okay. Now imagine that in the way our colleges are structured, in the way our education system is structured, in the way the skill system is structured, the rate at which industry needs people is not the rate at which colleges can churn out people. So therefore, more and more people will be hiring from other companies. So one of the questions for all of us is to be able to say that, why should people stay with us? And this is a question I ask entrepreneurs in my classroom. I say, why should anybody work for you? Okay. Similarly, I ask managers, why should anybody work for you? So this session is structured to just get you to think that people will continue to be the source of competitive advantage, other things being the same. Then in which case, how do I actually manage and retain people? So let me just present some ideas. Why is it important to understand group behavior? Because how people behave in a group is very different from how they behave individually, right? And many of you who have unions know that best. If you speak to each union leader individually, they will completely agree with you. But when they come together, you don't know what dynamics happens. Okay. So I'm sure even in OGTC as an organization, you will see this, right? Individually, many times we agree, but when we come together to make a decision, somehow the power of the group is different from the power of individuals. So first, we know that when employees come together as a collective, they will behave differently from how they think individually. So when we have a group of people working for us, the dynamics can either be positive or they can be dysfunctional. And we all know how it can be sometimes, because whatever you say, people are not understanding, they don't want to listen to you. All of this also happens. When it is positive, and I want you to reflect, when your team or the organization, everything is going well, deliveries are happening on time, customers are happy, you're getting more orders, everybody is kind of working to their full capacity, you will often see in those situations that there is a great deal of trust in the organization. People know that they can count on each other for support. People think in the skill, if I don't have a skill, there is somebody else who will be able to provide that skill. People know that if they work hard and work well, then they will be paid to their commensurate with their effort. And all in this group, what you see is individual accountability and mutual accountability. That means I'm not just responsible for my job, but I'm also responsible for what my department does, and I'm also responsible for what my company achieves. So if this is what we want to achieve, one of the questions, and I'm going to leave with you as managers and as entrepreneurs to think about is, are there dysfunctional individuals who create dysfunctional groups? Or can groups themselves become dysfunctional even though they may have functional individuals? And I want you to think through a little bit, because particularly in difficult times, in the last 2 years, many of you would have seen that groups have become very functional. Even the people who in the past used to complain, used to ask for things. Okay. Why? Because many of us became helpless during COVID. When the environment hits you so badly, it makes you insecure inside. And when you are insecure inside, you actually look to others to be able to help you. So even the most dysfunctional groups, right, suddenly turned very functional because their lives were at stake, their livelihoods were at stake. Okay? But during normal times, we often see that dysfunctional individuals can actually create dysfunctional groups. So I'm first going to kind of leave this idea that as a leader, whether you're an entrepreneur or a manager, managing dysfunctional individuals is very important, is very, very important. Okay? Because organizations at the end of the day are made up of individuals. It's a little bit like a bad apple in the family. The whole family gets corrupted, right? However much you say we are family, everything is fine, that one rotten tomato is enough to actually strain relations in a family. So quite in the same way, all that it takes is one rotten tomato in the organization to convert it into a basket of rotten tomatoes. So first question I want to push and ask you to reflect is, how do we let these rotten tomatoes lie in our organization? Yeah. Many entrepreneurs in particular tell me that, Professor, it is too much of nuisance. If it's too much of nuisance, isn't that where more effort has to go in? If you're a manager, then you say that, look, I don't want to spend so much time on one person. I ignore that person, or we ask the person to go. Now, the interesting question is, ignoring is not going to, heal the wound. Okay, I'm being really hard on this because I find that many times both entrepreneurs and managers don't make these decisions when they see a rotten tomato, especially when they are performing employees. Yeah, and employees performing, but the attitude is bad. I cannot tell you how many times you tolerate them in the organization. Primarily because what will happen to short-term production? What will happen to this? Okay. But as an entrepreneur, your enterprise is more important than an individual, right? If you're a manager, the long-term interest of 25 people in the group is more important than one person, however profitable, however productive they may be. So what you're doing inadvertently is actually creating a weak organization by letting this one individual or two individuals, whatever they may be. Yeah. So now you understand why I took so much time on this topic, because this, and that too I have only the title slide there, because dysfunctional individuals rot the organization culture. They rot the organization culture. Organization culture is more important than any individual in the organization. What kind of dysfunctionality happens? Why do dysfunctional individuals happen? Okay, or why do dysfunctional groups happen? First and the foremost thing that I have seen in my experience is weak leadership. Nobody wants to take accountability. Why? Because nobody wants to carry that problem. So if nobody wants to do it, clearly the person knows that they have the power to do anything and nobody will say anything and nobody can catch me, because my nuisance, as nuisance value increases, the people ignore. So there will only be more nuisance value. Okay, weak leadership. We don't want to take decisions. Yeah. Too much. So when do you know that dysfunctionality is happening? This is for both managers and entrepreneurs. Too much yes, yes. हाँ yes sir, आप जो भी बोलते हो yes sir, हाँ जी हो जाएगा, हर बार हो जाएगा. If your whole organization is saying this, you can be sure that there is a problem, because you're hiring people with some intelligence. When they are working, we expect them to apply that intelligence. If anybody applies their intelligence a little bit also, they should be able to see some problems. They should be able to see what is not working around them. They should also be able to tell you, sir, ye nahi ho payega. So, very important, right? So, dysfunctionality is not only bad people, bad behaviors. It's also about everybody saying yes, yes. I see this very common in Indian organizations, especially small and medium enterprises. Yeah, managers and entrepreneurs, both of them are seen like God, right? So, yes, sir, hanji, ho jayega. And then entrepreneurs and managers come and tell me, Professor, nobody takes accountability. How will they take accountability? Because they don't have an independent opinion. Yeah. So my request to you as managers and entrepreneurs is just get your people to talk first. It was old times when people just respected and they did what was told to them. Today, the world is changing around you. And in your conference, you have so many topics, all of which are about change. How can you have so many topics on change in supply chain, change in sustainable production, when your own internal employees do not have the courage to tell you that something is not correct? Yeah. So I want you to reflect in this session to be able to say that, do I actually allow for people to speak up? Do I ask solutions from people? Do people say no when I say something? Okay. So maybe sometime, we also have to examine our own mindset. Many times, again, on dysfunctional individuals, dysfunctional groups, we don't know which one causes what. But sometimes I find that, again, in small and medium organizations, is that some people, particularly who are close to managers, who are close to entrepreneurs, become very aggressive. Okay? They don't have power themselves. They have no power. They have power because, and they'll say, हाँ, हम chairman से बोल देंगे. Yeah, हम chairman के दोस्त हैं. So the moment they say that, right, people actually think that this person is very close, and what will happen? And what an irony, right? Usually these people are powerless. Their power comes because of the chairman, not because of them. So such many times in small organizations, they become aggressive. They don't allow people to speak. They take away ideas and they actually present it as their own idea. And many times entrepreneurs and senior leaders don't have the time to actually go down to see what is the real situation. So one of the other ways that dysfunctionality comes in organizations is, as the gap between the senior leadership and the family and the teams across the hierarchy widens, dysfunctionality starts coming in. So when you talk about group dynamics, right, positive dynamics is one part of it. It's the negative dynamics and how to watch out for it that I'm focusing on. Okay, I'm happy to take questions on positive dynamics when anybody asks. People don't feel safe. That's another reason why people become dysfunctional. So I don't say anything because I don't know how I will get perceived. I don't know how I will get interpreted, even though I know that what is happening is not okay. Last but not the least, again in large organizations, but so in small organizations, a lot of people get credit without working. 4 people in the group will work, 3 people will actually tag on them, and they will also get almost same incentives because the 4 people worked for 5 people. Yeah, again, very difficult to find out. And therefore, many times I find entrepreneurs and managers don't even know. So what am I saying basically? I'm saying that there are 2 parts when you're building organizations or you're building teams. First part is, what do I need to do to get people to be able to contribute better? We know that if people have a purpose, if people have work to do that is meaningful, if people have good company in the factory or the unit, when people are trained, all of these we know contribute positively to team dynamics. We know that. Yeah. Is money one important factor? Yes, it is. But is money the only factor? No. In fact, several years ago, I did a study of a garment hub cluster in Bangalore. And one of the interesting things that we found at that time was that we were told very clearly as researchers that till you're not married, you work in this, you will go and work for this company, which pays the highest, higher than everybody else by 1,000 rupees. And you won't believe it. The employees, women employees told us that till you're married, go and work there. But after you're married and you have a kid, don't go and work there, because the supervisors will monitor how much time you go to the bathroom and come back. They are not compassionate or considerate if your child is unwell. So if you want after marriage, go and work here. And you won't believe it, when I went back and I fed this data back to the organizations, you know, the leadership there thought that really, because they are poor people, because they need this job, they will come to this job for anything. Okay. So when I was sharing this findings, they were surprised. They said, is that so? I said, yes, because even the person who's coming just for money to your work also wants to be treated fairly. Yeah. So even for that money that I'm coming to you, the fact that I expect that you will treat me fairly. So many times when people come to work in organizations and look at team dynamics there, what works positively in team dynamics is very clear. We know it. Okay. The question to watch out for is really dysfunctionality. Okay. So let me move ahead and talk about conflict as one aspect of team dynamics. Very important, because somehow in our society in general, I find that we don't like conflict. We think it is bad. We think it's not correct. So therefore, what happens is the way we handle conflict is also not very clear. Okay. So one of the first things that I'm going to kind of leave you thinking about in this session is that whenever there are two people, even if you're two brothers, sisters, father, mother, whatever you may be, just think about it. Don't you have conflict at home? Of course we do, right? We all have conflicts. Then you would say that because we are family, we accommodate. But the interesting thing is that you have friends with whom you have conflict. So you also accommodate there. When you come into organizations, therefore, as leaders and entrepreneurs, you come with a perception, you come with a belief. I'm not saying perception, belief that when there are so many 100 people working, there will be conflicts. Conflicts are inevitable. However, how do I handle a conflict firmly and fairly? That is the important question. Yeah, that's the important question. So there's a lot of research on why conflicts happen. In my experience, again, in mid-sized companies, a lot of conflict happens because there's no clarity on roles and responsibilities. I hope that as I'm going through this presentation, you're thinking about your own organizations and groups, because wherever the roles are not clear, there will be conflict. Let me talk about a few other types of conflict. Okay, broadly, I don't want to call any conflict as a personal conflict, personality. Okay, people keep coming and telling me when I talk about conflict, they'll say, "Hamara personality, chemistry." Okay, no, we don't know what all that means. Okay, as leaders and as entrepreneurs, you have to be able to classify the conflict. You don't have a choice. Chemistry is not there means you will not work with them, is it? You will not trade with them. You will not be supplier to them. How? Why is it that with employees and with other people in the organization or your teams, you can say chemistry, personality and all that? It should be the same thing with your suppliers, with your clients, right? So I want you to look at a rather scientific way of looking at conflict. And some of this, you can easily apply to your personal life. First one, First is task conflict. Conflict about how to do something. Okay. At home, we have this conflict almost every other day. Vegetables have to be bought from the market. Who will go to buy vegetables? Okay, simple. Task has to be done. Both of us have our priorities. I have to go here, I have to go there, therefore I can buy and come only at 4 o'clock. Person says, look, boss, I have to finish this work before I leave, and therefore I need this to be bought then. Task conflict. Okay, goal conflict. Task conflict, mostly. When should it be done? How should it be done? Who should do it? Lot of conflicts are about task. Second one is relationship conflict. Okay, and I want to go through this a little bit more, which is, you told me something, you are my boss, you can tell me and I will accept. But only thing, in front of everybody, you shouted at me. Is that okay? No, not okay. You call me into the room and you shout at me, it's fine. But if you shout at me in the thing, it's not okay. Relationship conflict. My relationship with you is my boss. You can tell me, but where can you tell me? When you want to tell me personally. Should you be telling me in front of everybody else? No. Why? Because by doing that, you took away my identity in front of others. You know, when I was giving this example, one of my students, who is a young father, apparently his daughter came and told him that. She told him that, Papa, if you are upset with me, you tell me anything when my friends are not there. In front of my friend, please don't come and say anything. And he was telling me that it just hit him that day that she's just 5. She's not even like old, 5. And she's giving him feedback and telling him when you can tell me what. Okay. I'm sure as you have large people in the organization, just think about relationship conflicts. Process conflict. Manual to be followed, standard operating procedures to be followed. Somebody does not follow it. Somebody has to get a signature from the finance department before they can be approved. All kinds of process conflicts will happen in organization. Every day, there'll be hundreds of conflicts. Okay, we keep saying policy manual nahi pada, wo client ka ye pada nahi. How did this happen? All the process conflicts. Nothing to do with the person. Process conflict. They didn't follow the process. But what do? We immediately turn around and say, Dimag mein itna bhi aata nahi hai. What kind of, stupid fellow? What is, Now the moment, what was essentially process conflict? I didn't know the process. I didn't understand the process. I don't know why that process exists. I have never followed that process before. All of these are the questions. These are questions that have to be fixed with training, not by calling somebody stupid. You now begin to see, right? Process conflict. Organizations will have hundreds of process conflict. Goal conflict. Client asked immediate production. Okay, let us do 3 shifts, full production. Okay. Boss, this one thing, the seam is not coming correctly in the tailoring. There has to be something to be fixed. 15 or 500 pairs have a problem. Let us send it off. Or should we hold back that 500 and send the consignment? I'm sure if each one of you think about it, you would have reacted with different clients in completely different ways. The reason is means end conflict. If you're already delayed, you're more likely to ship it and take the return. If you have some time, you may rework. If the client is a positive, friendly, helpful client, you will tell saying that, look, there are these seam problems. Let us know what to do. Okay. So clearly, goal conflicts are very common, very common. Finally, role conflict. I have 2 roles to play. Okay. One role comes in the way of the other. I'm sure there's not one person who's sitting here who says that I had a big fight at home and I came to office and I was at my happiest self. Nobody can say that, right? Similarly, you have a bad day, you have a pressing problem at office, 99 out of 100 times, it will show up in your home life, right? So why is it important? Because to summarize, okay, conflicts are inevitable. Conflicts exist in everyone's life. So how to treat it is like the way you get up in the morning and go about your work. You say conflicts are inevitable. They will happen. I have to figure out how to manage them. And the moment you look at that conflict and you're able to label the conflict, then you depersonalize. Many times, why do conflicts become big is because we turn it as though the person was the problem. My own experience has been 99 out of 100 times, the person is not the problem. Unclear instructions, no SOPs, no training, no clarity on roles and responsibilities, no reviews, checks and balances, lack of planning. All of these cause conflicts. Lack of resources. All of these cause conflicts. People inherently, nobody comes wanting to fight. If there is an exception, it's that 1%, which is an exception, who's picking a fight on everything. 99% of the people, when they come to work or at home, they do not want conflict. It's the situation that creates conflict. And therefore, just having the ability to be able to classify conflicts becomes very, very helpful. Okay. Let me take another maybe 5-7 minutes and then I will wrap up so that we have time for questions. Okay. I don't think this slide is very important. Let me spend some time on this slide because so when there is a conflict, what do we do? Okay. And I want just a little bit to think through this because many times minor disagreement, misunderstanding get resolved through sorry. Okay. Galti se ho gaya. Sorry, we forgot, we made a mistake. Yeah. With that minor disagreement, misunderstandings get solved. Overt questioning, challenging authority, saying, who are you to tell me what to do? When that comes, you need a third-party intervention. So you'll say, boss, don't talk like this. You should not. You're in a workplace. There are certain rules of behavior. You cannot say, who are you to tell me? He's your manager, supervisor. Please listen. Okay. Assertive verbal attack. Now, this is where you know problem is starting. Okay. The person is using all kinds of language. Threat, ultimatum. If you don't do this, see what I will do. Okay. By the time it has come to this end, as an entrepreneur or as a manager, if you don't intervene, your culture will get eroded. It's not about the person who's shouting. It's about the 300 people who are watching. And what they think is, if this person cannot, nobody in the company is there to support this person against whom this attack is happening, what will happen to me in the future if I were in that situation? Yeah. And there is a very beautiful word for this. It's called psychological safety. And I'm sure all of us have experienced this, right? Some meeting we go into, we feel safe to say things because you know that the other person is listening, is trying to understand. And so, and those places we give our best. There are some places where it's psychologically unsafe. If I say something, I don't know how the other person will react. Okay. Usually, when these kind of conflicts happen, open conflicts, and as managers and entrepreneurs, if you do not intervene when verbal attack is going on against a person, people will say that everyone around will turn around and say, boss, this person is receiving so much of attack and there's nobody to protect that person. What if I am in the same situation in the future? So it is best not to say anything. Okay. So please remember that as entrepreneurs and senior leaders, your role becomes very important by the time it turns into assertive verbal attack. Last, so often people ask me, how do you resolve conflicts? What are the ways so that you can improve the team dynamics? First and the most important one is problem solving. Why are two people in conflict? What is causing the conflict? Even understanding, you don't even have to make a decision. You don't have to act. In fact, in conflict, don't act. Just listen and understand how the conflict now happened, not who said what.
Sorry, ma'am, just to interrupt you. We are just left with last 5 minutes.
Oh, I see. So let me kind of stop here. If there are some questions, I will pick that up. Yeah.
I think that's great. I don't think we can really ask. This is not a platform people can ask direct question from you, but yes, they can write in the chat box, and we can forward you. Or probably if they have the email address, probably you can reply, or OGTC
Sure.
can send the reply.
Sure.
So
let me just take a minute to wrap up the presentation.
yes, sure.
Yeah. So I want to leave just one last thought, that the most important thing in communication, and I skipped an earlier slide and I want to go here, is that what can you do when you know there is a conflict? First and foremost is communicate, communicate, and communicate. Listen. Communicate is not talking, it's listening. So just listen, understand from different perspectives before you arrive at a judgment. Second one, as much as possible, try to know your members well. Who's contributing, who's taking all the credit, who is innovating, who is intimidating who is encouraging, who's going beyond work to help, who is not liked by the team members. If you are able to get this kind of an insight, okay, it makes it so much easier to resolve conflicts. And let me kind of stop there.
Thank you, Professor Vasanthi Srinivasan. I think you're always. It's a pleasure to attend your sessions because they are very enlightening and sometimes provocative also. And I think it's great to have you, ma'am. And you're just to summarize your session, I will say yes. As a leaders, we need more people to be connecting with each other rather than just correcting them. As a leader, I think we need to connect. We need collaborators. We just don't need stars in our team. Yes, if you have stars in the team, it's great to have them, but they don't last long. You need more collaborators in the team so that everybody can work together.
Yeah.
And taking best out of others, I think, is discovering yourself as a manager or as a leader. So really, thank you once again.
Thanks.
And it's a pleasure having you. So we are going to head for the closure ceremony, and we need to change the platform now.
Yes,
thank you, ma'am.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Okay. On behalf of OGTC team, I wish to extend my sincere thanks to our chairman, Mr. Parampreet Singh, and our eminent speaker, Professor Vasanthi Srinivasan, and our delegates. Thank you so much, ma'am and sir. I request all the participants and speaker to kindly log off from here and join the conference wrap-up session.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.